Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have our first BSS tournament report. It's for our friend Espira's circuit series he's doing leading up to the pre-release event later this month. So if you guys want more information on how to join those and join the other weeks of it, hit the link in the description. There should be some more info for you there. But jumping on into it, big just shout outs to, again, Espira for running this as well. And he did do a meta report, so we do see what people were playing for this event. It was only 3 rounds, but it's just good to get some information on what people are playing in some example deck list, and let's kind of just jump on into it. So looking at the archetype breakdown, there were 7 purples, 6 white rainbows, 4 red, 4 yellows, 3 red purple, 2 white purple, 2 red yellow, a white red, and a white. So honestly, like in this game compared to like other Bandai card games, there's no kind of leader to represent your deck, and honestly compared to like something like Digimon where it's kind of generic where you support your lines, it's really open to your deck building opportunities. So we're gonna have to finally kind of develop some fan names for some of these decks, and we'll kind of have to figure out how they go. So we are going to go over the list as well. Unfortunately, there's not a really good deck builder for this. There's like the TCG Plus, but it's not as honestly the spot where I want it to be right now. So we're just going to go over these. I'm going to blow up the image of this, but we did have a red purple, a Star Dragons, a yellow aggro, and then also as our 3 undefeateds at the end of round 3. And then I also want to get some kind of more color diversity, so we have Tom's purple Soul Control as well as the white Mechs. So those are the 5 lists we're going over today, and let's start off with Criminal Offense's undefeated red purple. Starting off, we have Criminal Offense's undefeated red purple list here. I'm saying it's red purple because there's enough purple for it, but this is kind of just a mishmash of just good cards for removal. I would say this is kind of leaning more on a like control deck. There's a lot of cards that let you just do removal, as well as it just prevents your opponent from being really aggressive on the low end. So it's not really Star Dragons in a way. It's not really, I'd say, any like official archetype, but really good at just being really disruptive of your opponent's pieces and trying to kind of outvalue them by the end of the game by saying, you know, all my cards have destruction effects, and then by the end of the game I can try to push for some damage here. So some particular cards for that specifically is like the Dragon Arc right here, which lets you prevents any damage from 2k or less, which just means they can't hit you on the low. Then also like some card draw off the Blade Dino. The kind of top end is the Nebula Dragoon, being able to do 2 damage if you need to. So pretty good for like kind of ending the game, being able to do kind of like a double strike as we know it in other card games is really strong. We do have these 3 big bad boys who all essentially have some good removal effects, especially like the Raging Dino having Confront is really nice, at least on such a top end. And then also the Supreme Dragon, it's not super like the life mechanic. You can only do it if you, in the main deck at least, if you use the Ascend with another copy of itself, essentially, but then you get to refill your life. So not necessarily the main point of this deck, but more of the when the spear attack effects to give that extra damage, like pop while you swing with it, which is really nice. Going on to the magic card, so the draw really understood the Big Bang energy only at 1. We're not really necessarily a Star Dragon archetype, so just like the Saki one of for some of our Star Dragons, like the Nebula Dragon and the so obviously you can go into Nebula Dragon and then go into Seagworm from it, so there is that kind of synergy there. Blazing for Burning Force to get some Nexus removal, which is really good in this. Just in general, there's a lot of decks that are really dependent on those Nexuses, so that's good there. Volcanic Canyon for we really don't need our own Nexuses as much, especially since I feel like we just kind of go wide on the board. We don't necessarily push a lot of damage. We don't let ourselves get kind of hit as much, so that's kind of good there. And then we do have the Dark World 7. So this is a really good card. Something I'm just saying because I recently found out about it, and I want to make sure you guys do, is that when you play this off of its immortal effect, you do have to pay the cost for it again, which is somewhat. I don't think that prevents me from playing it at all in decks like I do, but that's just something like an extra cost if you guys weren't aware of it. So you do have to check out for that. But it is like 3 costs to pop something is great, especially on a body, especially when you play it from your trash. So being able to use that effect, so you can use something like Deadly Balance. You do have to play like the full 3 for this to like get rid of like one of your 4 cost or 5 cost, which this deck does run quite a few, and then you can use it to play the Darkhold 7 and get the additional pop. And like you don't like lose the body, which is really nice. You do have to lose a lot of tempo for it, but it is kind of good play there. And then Ice Shield. Ice Shield I think was in 4 of every deck that topped or did well. So expect. I'm not going to mention it anymore. You guys should know the run 4 of this card is very good. So. And then going to the side, we do have some kind of more white cards just for generic good. So this is really good for purple. Counter Sword is really good for like some good removal effects. I do like the 6-drop Star Dragons as well. And this obviously is a Sea Worm. So if you do need to kind of rely on getting the life refill, this is another card for that. And then the Andromeda. I really like this card. If you're already running like Nexus removal, I would almost want to find some room for this in the main for it. But they did not, and that's okay. They're still undefeated, so they know what they're doing. So that is my kind of over the top for this one, and let's go to the next one. Next up, we have Kai's Undefeated Star Dragons, and this one is definitely just a good old Star Dragon list, and I think that's super good. I think the archetype in general is very strong for what it is, and I really do like the card choices for this one. It's just like a couple cards for the low end. You do run quite a few of these nexuses just to get your reductions later, and then just kind of go on into it. So obviously this does depend on the Sea Worm eventually using its effect to get the life refill. So obviously you want your absolute ice shields. Not that you're not running it already, but you want it to be able to get that, go down to 1 life and then go all the way back up to 5, which means you just get a bunch of ramp for it as well. 3 Big Bang Energy. Probably I would not run 4 of this card at all. 3 is probably the max I'd ever run. 2 is where I'm usually comfortable with, but I do like running the Andromeda and also the other Sea Worm as well. So both of these at 6. There's good effects, like the Confront effect of this too is really strong for removal, and then a bunch of card draw to make sure you see your pieces and just kind of go from there. So this is honestly, this is probably one of the most straightforward decks in the game. It just says we like Star Dragon stuff, run the Star Dragon stuff. You run the Star Dragon stuff, and then you do really well. So I think this is, I've been running. This is one of the lists that I've made myself as well. I don't think there's a lot to go over with it. It's Revolve around the 8-drop. It's very easy to get into and gain just a bunch of advantage for playing him as well. So I don't have much more to talk about that. I do like the sideboard text here of the Nebula Dragon, as well as some Burning Forest if you need some more Nexus removal. Also, the Netherworld Depths. It's going to cost a chunky 6 to play this card, but man, this gets so much card draw. This is a silly Nexus, and we'll have to see it later in the purple list. Next up, we have Symphonus's undefeated, I'd say, yellow aggro deck. It's kind of like a mix between like 2-drop aggro and all of the just good benefits that you get from that deck, as well as kind of a weird kind of top end for some of the magic cards for all the luster effects. So it doesn't look like you're hard committing to either one, and you're just kind of going into kind of the mid. And like obviously this guy here does let you kind of do both. It's a 2-drop that does have luster, which kind of is nice. And obviously the pen 10 is good for reducing the cost of your cards, so they're a little bit cheaper too. And all of that's just very strong. So being able to play Drowsy Fumes for free and then get them all back at the end is just really good for just removal and just kind of everything from that. So I don't have a lot to say about this deck. It's just like a really obnoxious deck for all of the kind of advantage you get from it, not only from being able to use luster, being able to use the card effects again, and honestly, like all of these effects, like all the magic cards that you can use with them are just okay cards, but they also are like BP minus effects, which are very strong and can really help you out there as well. And also, like Blessed Cathedral is just a broken card. Like this card's busted for what it does. You either get ramp, or you get card draw, or you get both, and that's not okay, man. Like that's obviously there's Nexus removal, and there's ways to get around this card. And it's a really good card for when you don't attack against it. But man, neither of these effects having hard once per turns is a little silly to me for what it is. But honestly, yeah, just being able to use your magic cards, get them back with luster, and then also your 7-drop here being able to get you some late game advantage if you kind of need it back, because you do just have like a bunch of weenies that you drop out, and hopefully they do well. So it's just a weird deck. It's quirky. I don't think at first I thought I'd like yellow, and I think it's a really good color, and I think people will be playing it for sure. But I don't think it's the color that lends to my gameplay a lot. But it's whenever I play against them, like man, they have so much advantage. I just can't do anything about it. So if you like playing a deck that feels broken at times, something like this will probably be for you. So those are all of our undefeated, but I did want to go over two more lists just because I want to cover something for purple and for white. So here's Tom's. I'm going to call this like soul control in a lot of ways. It's just the idea of like how obnoxious this deck can be with removal, how efficient it can be with removal, and just kind of messing up your opponent's plays in a lot of ways. So in general, like, and this did go 201, so it's undefeated if you want to say like that. But yeah, it's just like a lot of obnoxious cards. So like example, like I've been wrong about this card. I think it's good. I don't know why I wasn't running it earlier because it wasn't like in the right archetype. But man, it's if you're playing this, especially on color, you definitely want to play this card. It's very easy for this to be in your discard pile and be able to use the effect to play it for free, and just get the effects from there. Pendicles is one of my favorite cards in the entire game. It's very solid for removal. You get to do whatever you want. Dark Knight Mordred as well, being able to do that. And then the Cursed Dragon is such a good card for removing a lot of cards on the board, getting a lot of advantage back, and just getting like a ramp. Like once you hit this card, you have a lot of cores. You can do whatever you want for it, and just feels very good. But and then just a lot of purple does have like a lot of good nexuses and magic cards as well. So Netherworld Depths, it's hard to run this at more than two because it is a little bit clunky and it is a little expensive to get. But man, once you see this card, you just draw as much, or your opponent's is like installed. They don't want to attack and give you advantage, especially since like whenever you stall, like you get an absolute ice shield pretty easily, and you just get to see more, and it's just very good there. Purple Smoke Valley as well for similar reasons as well. And then Bloody Rain is just like a backup copy of Absolute Ice Rain, or Ice Shield at times. Deadly Balance that we've seen like other decks want to run this card, so running it in the deck that like gets the advantage from it is really good. And then Poison Shot for the additional removal. So honestly, I really like purple. Purple is probably something that jives closer to my own personal playstyle. Like I like the curse mechanic. I like how you get to do some cool removal effects. The fact that you get to remove cores and really mess up your opponent's plays. In general, like any deck that has like some a really efficient removal, I think is going to be solid in this game just because you're able to prevent, like, not only does it remove a card that can attack, but also removes any like quote unquote ramping potential and cost reduction, which I think is strong as well. So congrats to Tom on their finish going 201. I like this build, and I gotta try it out more. Honestly, I really like purple. Gotta play it more. So. And to finish it off, we do have Palillo's 2-1 white mech list. And honestly, I'm going to say I don't know this list as much as others. I haven't delved into white as a color as much as the other three. So do forgive me for any just not knowings of how some of these cards work or some of the kind of more intricate things. But man, it's a really cool list. Like all of the cards, like it's not a good reason to play the deck, but man, like I do have this card physically because I got it from my influencer box. So I want to play it, and there's just a lot of cool stuff for white. So in general, like it's the kind of hard control archetype. You really get to be really obnoxious, where your opponent really doesn't want to attack, or they get punished for attacking, or are just kind of going from there. And then you get to go into your big boys who just have a lot of protection. They're really hard to remove, and your opponent's just going to have a hard time getting around them. And the fact that a lot of them have blocker, they have these effects. I think that's good too. So you do have a lot of good magic cards as well. Like obviously, Absolute Ice Shield in this. If everyone's playing it off their color, you definitely want to play it on your color. Counter Sword is great for some removal too. Dream Bomb and the Suppression too are great kind of support cards for that, and preventing your opponent from like getting a lot of advantage. You do have a lot of like cheaper nexuses that honestly, like, you kind of need to run a lot of nexuses in this list just because you want to get a lot of that cost reduction, and nexuses are a little bit harder to remove than your spirit cards. You're running the Netherworld Depth that one because yeah, it's still really good in this deck, even if it's off color. You get a lot of card draw, which is honestly the worst thing about white in my opinion. Like it doesn't have a lot of cycle compared to a lot of the other colors. You are teching in the Star Blessed draw just to get a draw 2 or draw 4 for 4, which is great. And it's just really, you're at the whim at times of just seeing what you need to do. But once you do, you're great. You get a lot of ramp. You get a lot more potential to get more soul cores than a lot of other decks, and like you get rewarded for getting into your big 8/7 cost. So it's just something you have to kind of look at there. But I don't have a lot more insight depth. It's just an archetype I need to educate myself more on. And sorry for not knowing more. But that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoy it. Again, if you guys want to join the circuit series, make sure to hit the link in the description, and that will be it for me. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.